Good evening, and today is Friday, June 17th. I am Ronaldo McKenzie. Welcome to another episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast, and today we continue our series, Caribbean Thought, or towards developing a Caribbean and Pan-African diasporan perspectives. What I did in the series is I am opening up some discussions and presentations I had with some students at a class I was facilitating. I was a lecturer or professor teaching a course at the Jamaica Theological Seminary in Caribbean Thought, and that I had the first part of the series or the introduction part of the series a couple of days ago, and today we are continuing the series, and this is going to be part 2, and then the final part of the series will be probably on Sunday or Monday. But I think on Saturday or Sunday we'll be interviewing Professor Andre Corrine Isaac, who is professor at the Holy Cross University in Massachusetts. Of course, he was a buddy of mine. We played and a hitting partner when we were at the University of Pennsylvania. He was doing his postdoc, and of course he went his doctorate, and he went on to University of Berkeley in California to do his postdoc, and we will have him on the show on Saturday. But of course, we are looking forward to that. But you cannot afford to miss this episode that's about to come up. This next episode, it's deep, it's deep, it's intense, it's academic, but it is clear. And I'm here teaching a class at the Jamaica Theological Seminary online, and I'm teaching and I'm talking. And this particular class, we're looking at American exceptionalism. We're also looking at whether or not there is a Caribbean identity and other very important issues. We'll be right back after these messages. Can you guys hear me? Hello? How long? Okay. Okay, good. So, all right, good. So we talk. Is Jesus a Jew? And by the way, I'm recording this. I didn't realize I could record it. So we asked the question: is Jesus a Jew? If you hear me go out, let me know, guys. Just unmute your mic and just let me know. All right. So, okay, good. So we said that is Jesus. So Jesus is a Jew, and I said that some people try to privilege. So we talk about American exceptionalism, and they impose that in the world. And if countries try to, in fact, American exceptionalism is so important that if you look at Grenada experienced some kind of coup, some kind of takeover, because Grenada in the 1950s was trying to develop a government of nationalism, a government of that seemed to favor a particular kind of governance, maybe Russian or Soviets or something. So of course they supported a cliche group of people. They support a group of people who said, hey, you're with us. You want our kind of governance. It's Jamaica in the 90s. If you look at the 70s, it's either Michael Manley acquiesced to the neoliberal regime of the Washington Consensus, It's either Michael Manley acquiesce to the IMF and the World Bank and do what they want you to do and get this kind of American brand of capitalism, or they withhold money from you, needed capital from you, or they, Cuba is a poor country. Cuba is not successful today. You know why Cuba is not successful today? Cuba is not successful because they don't have American capitalism. They don't have they practice socialism. In fact, many Jamaicans, and when I was growing up, I did not want Jamaica. I hated the People's National Party. I did not want to have a People's National. Because we were taught that if you support socialism or Marxism or the People's National Party, you're going towards Marxism or capitalism or Soviet-style government. And you don't want that to happen, because look what happened to Cuba. But of course, it will happen to Cuba, because if you don't succumb or acquiesce or give in to American kind of politics, brand of politics, then what's going to happen is we're not going to help you. We're not going to support you. We're not going to give you the aid that you need. We're going to we're going to make your life a living hell. So that 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, people could say, see what I'm talking about? Why Jamaicans could say, I don't want to be a socialist country. Look what's happening in Cuba. And I used to tell that to my friends. Look what's going on because they have a particular brand of government, political, they practice capital, socialism, and have a state-run economy, state-run, then we're going to look what's happening in China. We don't want that kind of, Venezuela, we don't want that kind of political system in Jamaica, because that system, because you know why? Because we are quick to accept. First of all, because some people, they made it so. The Americans made it so, or whoever they made, the people, the neoliberals made it so. They made it so that capitalism will reign, so that anybody who there's an embargo on Cuba, and anybody that trade with Cuba will be ostracized. You won't get any aid, you won't get any help. So that's what happened. So Cuba is a communist country. Because of that, there's an embargo by the people who are the bastions of capitalism and that kind of democracy. So you don't want to follow our kind of democracy, then there we go, free market system. Then we are not going to help you. We're not going to give you investments. And guess what? We control most of the capital and investments. So we're going to tell other countries, do not trade with you. If they trade with you, they're going to be a problem. So now Cuba is struggling because of this. And many countries, and Venezuela will struggle because of this. Okay? Because there is this do or die. It's either my way or the highway. This kind of ethic is not just in political system, but it's also in theological and religious systems. And please remember that it is religious systems helps to form the foundational principles within governments. When governments work on behalf of their countries, and they work on behalf of the machinery that control and the power brokers of the day. And the power brokers, they accept a kind of religion. If you look at what's happening in Europe, certain European countries are Anglicans, and others are Catholics, and others are Episcopalian, and others are Protestants, and so on and so forth. Because those particular religions speak to their culture, and it informs their government, and so on and so forth. And you bring it back to the Caribbean. We are a new people that has a kind of religion and government is it uniquely Caribbean? Is it uniquely black? Or is it something that the new world created, where we have a new religion now? But of course, what about the exclusivity of things? So the Americans want to believe that they are great and they are big. So when we had COVID, Donald Trump did not want to look weak. He said, no, I'm not going to tell people that we have a COVID issue. We're not going to wear masks. Everything is fine because guess what? We're an exceptional country, only to their detriment. You find that I was reading an article, or somebody wrote a paper recently about some people who are homosexuals live in slums, and I said that's an unfair statement because you cannot use that argument because there are people who are not homosexuals who are Christians who live in slums. In fact, Jamaica has more churches in any country than anywhere else in the world, yet we have the highest crime rate and we are poor. In fact, some people who live in some of the best places in the world and who have certain economic privileges would consider, would say otherwise, would have would look at the opposing view. It is because of this why we have this kind of issue. So we have to be careful when you reason and when you think about things. You have to think. You can't look at it in a vacuum, or you can't look at it singularly or parochially or narrowly. You have to look at it expansively. You have to look at it on the other side. You have to wonder about these things as well. And you have to also question your own viewpoint, because your own viewpoint, where does it come from? Why do you believe that this is so and have accepted it? And in the first class, we talked about tradition and culture, and how culture before the invention or the advent of writing, it was an oral culture. People would tell you things, and that's how things was recorded, and that's how things was passed down. And if I were to use a Chinese telephone and tell you something, by the time we get to the end of the line, it's going to be something else. So, how sure are you that what you now know is what was passed down in the first place? So that is the question. So let me continue about this American exceptionalism and go back to, was Jesus a Jew? And the Jews don't accept Jesus, and the Hebrew people don't accept Jesus, but they are the one that talked about the coming of a man who will bring salvation, not to all mankind, but to the Jew. It was in their interest to talk about this, because the Hebrew people, in some point of their history, were going through something. Okay? Their land was taken from them. Okay? And they had to go through, and they were, of all the countries in the world, they were the weakest of all the countries in a sense. They weren't as dominant. You have Egypt, you have the Roman Empire. Where is the talk of the Hebrew people as a nation, as an organized country? Where is that? But no, they were nomadic. The Hebrews, they were nomadic. And of course, you talk about Judah, and then eventually the issue of Judah. But then they talk about this Jesus, this person that can save. Why? Because at the time, Rastafari talk about a Rastafari. The Rastafarian, they talk about a black Jesus, or they talk about they don't identify with the Jesus. They identify with Rastafari, Haile Selassie, because we're gonna watch a movie. We're gonna watch a documentary film called "Who Shot the Sheriff," and in it you hear Bob Marley talks about Bob Marley says Rasta is struggle. Rasta is struggle. We don't identify with Marxism or capitalism. We don't identify with any of those. Because he says that Rasta is So the Jews don't accept that at the time. They didn't accept this Jesus because you know why? You know what I talked about American exceptionalism just now. You see how I argue. If you look at how if I'm facilitating this discussion with you, I'm talking this monologue, and you notice how I go back and forth and I ask certain questions. It's very important. There's a particular reason why I do things like that, so that you can connect dots and do sequencing as you listen. I talk about American exceptionalism. I bring it right back to talk about why didn't the Jews accept? Jesus was weak. They said he became weak. How can a God? How can he come weak? So they couldn't identify. So Jews are struggling to find their mark in the world. They have lost their people. They've lost their tongue. They're divided. They're splinter groups all over the world. In the first 1400 BC or 400 BC, you look at Judah and the whole history of Jerusalem and Judah, and the fact that, say for example, today, it wasn't until 1945 that Israel became a nation again, a country again. There was no Israel prior to 1945, just so you know. Okay, what happened? There was a repatriation, not reparation. There's a difference between reparation and repatriation. Where after World War II, the people who dominated the world at the time, UK, US, what they did was to create, because they wanted to maintain a presence throughout the world and their dominance. So they said, hey, we need to recreate Israel again. So they recreated Israel, sent back people to Israel, and created a nation again. So that's how Israel became a nation again. So they have lost their nation, but Jesus was supposed to reinvent Israel. So they came up with a Jesus. Jesus is supposed to be powerful. He's the Son of God. He's supposed to we're splintered. It's because we lost our way, but now God is going to send His Son Jesus, and He's gonna fight for us. We're gonna be a dominant country again. We're gonna be a nation again. Okay, that's what's gonna happen. But then somewhere down the line, the story changed, because now people start talking about Jesus, and this Jesus came, and this Jesus was brutally sacrificed, and He was beaten, and no, that is not the Jesus. No, we Americans are exceptional. We don't expect Americans to have COVID or to deal with COVID in the way that we don't. The Jewish. No. Our God is omnipotent and omniscient and big, and that He's going to come and He's going to save us. And our God is better than the Egyptian God, and it's better than the Roman God, and it's better than the Ottoman God. Okay, and He's going to send His Son Jesus into the world, and we're only going through this now because we lost our way, and He's going to rescue us, and we're going to be the number one nation again. We're going to be the best nation again. That's what's going to happen to the Jews. Okay, it's going to happen. But of course, what happened is that here is it that now the story about Jesus, somebody somewhere down the line, somebody took that and said, no. Jesus now is weak and lowly, because we talk about Jesus giving away His divinity and taking on human form and being weak and lowly, and no, Jews, that's not who is gonna come to save us. That is not the Jesus that we speak of as a people. That's not our. Now you guys can claim. You guys can lay claim to that Jesus. We will not, because that is not the Jesus that we talked about. That is not the Jesus that God spoke to us about. But the Gentiles needed that Jesus. The Gentiles, they're even worse than the Jews. The Jews don't, they lost their tongue, their people. Here they are now in Rome, and they're inhabited by the Roman Empire. So the question is, this Jesus becomes an important issue here for the. So Jesus, for them, but the Gentiles saw value in this Jesus. They find value in in the story about this Jesus that we speak about. That's supposed to come and save and bring light to the blind and so on. And so now the story about Jesus now, and then so now the Gentiles take the Torah and then take the story about Jesus, and now the Gentiles also needed importance. They could not worship. They couldn't worship with the Jews. First of all, if you're not a Roman, within the first 100 years of Christianity, by the time Rome took control of the Greco-Roman world, if you're not if you are a Roman citizen, that's great. If you can become a Roman citizen, you are special, you're revered, you're seen as important. So the Jews can't even claim that. But then the Gentiles are even worse. But now they took the story of Jesus, and now they can now become part of that story. And then Ignatius Romanized the Christian religion, gave it that Roman character, and now there you have Christianity became an institution that mirrored the Roman kind of doctrine and culture and modus operandi. And you have the way how the church, the way how the church is set up with that, have some kind of Roman influence in it as well. Yes, some things with the Hebrew influence, but you look at how church is set up in the Caribbean. Look at how the church is set up. And even how the church is set up give credence to power dynamic, because the most important people sit up at the pulpit, and the closer you are to the reverend, the more power you have. There's this power dynamic in that we see. So the question then, this whole idea of religion and how we see things as a people and who we are has to be looked at carefully as we seek to develop our own thought and to go somewhere with that thought. Now, so that leads me to know, talking about the issue that I really want to talk about in class today, which is, by the way, I'm going to be talking about this thing, the need for, are you seeing my screen, guys? Hello? Oh, wow. Okay, that's fine. All right. Now, let us now look at, I want to look at a particular issue that I talked about at the break. As I said, I want you guys to come along with me somewhere. Let me come out of here. I raised the issue of, let me see if I could bring that Caribbean Thought Journal. There we go. I'm about to share my screen in a second. Journal of the week. There we go. See more. Good. I'm gonna share my screen. Share screen. Share. Did I stop it? Good. Can you guys see my screen now? Good. I'm going to be very slow with, just so you know, I just said to you earlier, I may not follow the first classes that I usually do. I may not follow the exact outline that I have in my head. I might share with you because other things might develop in the week, which speaks to what we are dealing with as a class. But after Del Marie posted it, after I read Del Marie's journal. By the way, Del Marie, did you send your journal to the Gleaner? Okay, well, okay, great. Well, I took it upon myself to send it for you. Okay, I did, and in fact, I wrote the Gleaner. I wrote the editor to the. I wrote the Gleaner, and this is in line with what I asked you guys. And I apologize if I'm not following the exact course outline, but I want you guys to go with me on this journey, and you guys are going to be very impactful. And I'm going to talk about. I'm going to say why I'm doing this. By the way, first of all, Caribbean Thought, this course is a very powerful course. I am happy that the Jamaica Theological Seminary is doing this course. I'm happy that Reverend Garnet Roper, who was the president at JTS, developed this course. And I'm re-engineering it, and I'm trying to popularize it. I'm trying to make this course a course everywhere in the world. One, and that the Jamaica Theological Seminary will be the focal point. People will come to us. People will come seek us out to see how that course is taught, how it's fleshed out. Because I believe that Caribbean problem is we need to be influencers in the world. That's what we need to do in order to change our plight. Okay? People need to, this is not just in terms of sport or tourism, but in academia and other things that can create opportunities for us as we think about creating a nation state for ourselves. I believe that Jamaica, I think in the past, we have people like Rex Neckford, Louise Bennett, and Michael Manley, Edward Siaga, many other Jamaicans in the recent contemporary world that has really helped Jamaica move us to a particular level, but we are still not where we're supposed to be. And we're still struggling in the same ways that we struggled back then. And I believe that part of the revolution that we need in Jamaica is intellectual revolution. Not only are we to do well in terms of sports and tourism, but in terms of research and technology and finance and government and politics and academia. You know, I believe that we can do more, in terms of not just having influence in local affairs, but international affairs. And that's what I'm hoping to do from this course. So, I asked the students in my Caribbean Thought summer semester class at the Jamaica Theological Seminary. Are you guys seeing my screen? Yes? It went? Okay, so it goes as soon as the screen goes off. So I need to remember that. There we go. So I'm reading an article that I wrote in LinkedIn. It says, I asked the students in my summer semester class to write a 1 to 2 page journal about a thought and to trace the origin of that thought and to explore its credibility as we delve into Caribbean thought. What we are hoping to do this summer is to develop and produce a monthly or quarterly journal of Caribbean thought. And this course is geared towards producing a rich, constant staple of Caribbean perspectives that is critical and academic. You see what I'm hoping to do here? Sometimes I wonder if in Jamaica or in the Caribbean, our religion makes us, or the kind of religion that we have makes us devoid of thinking, as if we can't think anymore. By the way, I was thinking earlier. I asked somebody. I was involved in a debate with somebody, and somebody put Romans 1 verse 1. I'm like as a response, as if when people cannot respond in a debate, or when people are losing in a debate, or when people are now unsure of themselves, or cannot respond academically or critically to certain strong points in a debate or in a discussion, what they usually do is say, hey, Romans 1 verse 1, especially we as Christians. And we just quote just fly off, like, as if, what's that? Okay, first of all, there are many ways of seeing a particular scripture, just so you know. When you quote a scripture, there are many things. First of all, just so you know, there's no unifying interpretation sometimes of that scripture. Because I can give you a scripture, a verse, and I might have 10 or 11 different meanings from you guys. depending on what church you go to, what denomination you're affiliated with. And if you're not Christian, depending on what religion, or if you're atheist, well, that's through the door. So if I am going to use the Bible, a biblical verse in a discussion as a point to justify or to give credence or to explain or to highlight or to appeal to a particular issue, then I must also explain the Bible verse and tell you what point or what vantage or what slant I'm using, so on and so forth. But we have a way, it's as if there's no thinking anymore. Thinking is static. The God we serve is static. The God we serve is barren of new thought and ideas. Anyway, so what I'm hoping to do is to develop and to produce a monthly or quarterly journal of Caribbean thought. And this course is geared towards producing a rich, constant staple of Caribbean perspective that is critical and academic. In this course, which is part of a study I'm doing this summer, we are empowering and developing Caribbean thought as study perspectives of Caribbean currents and how they continue and can be enhanced or redeveloped within a uniquely Caribbean and its diaspora expression that speaks to Caribbean and its diaspora development and sustainability. It's an online course which I have the pleasure of facilitating, so on and so forth, via a student in my class, a first journal, which was exceptional. It provides the basis from which to start charting our study journal and the course Caribbean Thought. And that's true. Just so you know, guys, I thought about it. I said, Delmarie, look. So this is what I'm saying to you guys. You guys are going to submit journals or papers at the end of this course, which I want to use in a journal. And at the end of this course, probably by September, I want to produce what is known as the Jamaica Theological Seminary, the Jamaica Theological Seminary Caribbean Thought Journal. If you guys paper make it to the journal, I want to ensure that the journal, you guys are compensated in a way. But I don't want to talk about that part because it's not really, I don't want to think about it in those terms. But my goal at the end of this course is to, if your journals are great, it will make it to this editorial review journal that we will start doing once every year or twice. Important that you think about. And notice what I said here in my introduction. I said here, I asked the students to write a 1 to 2 page journal about a thought, to trace the origin of that thought and to explore its credibility as we delve into Caribbean thought. Caribbean thought, we always, that's what we're doing. And that's what I just did with you just now as I talk about what is a Jew. But why did I start by this idea of what is a Jew? I started the idea of what is a Jew because Jamaica is a Christian nation. And what is singularly important within Christianity is the story of Jesus. Yes? Okay? And I wanted to understand how is it that we came to be a singularly Christian nation? Not just as a Jamaican, as a country, or as a Caribbean. But please remember that last week when we traced Caribbean history briefly, we look at it with the Europeans coming to the New World, but they didn't just come to the New World. Okay? They went somewhere. Okay? But yeah, they came to the New World, and of course, sugar. We talk about commodities. Sugar became king, or sugar. There was a demand for sugar, and everybody wanted to cash in on sugar. Okay? They've already lost coming to the New World, not finding gold, but now they realize that there's a demand for sugar, and it was best grown in the Caribbean in a tropical climate. They already had people living in the Caribbean, The Spaniards were living here. Some Caribbean people, and the slave, they already had some slaves, but not to a big extent like the slave trade. So they know what it takes to live here. Okay, and then of course, capitalism and is about, and of course, it's about exploitation. Okay, and colonialism provides one kind of exploitation. You exploit land. But before colonialism, there is the exploitation of labor in order to maximize profit. You cheapen labor. Okay? So we talked about, all right? So please remember that this commodity or finance or consumerism and profit and greed followed this whole exploitation of Christianity, the Christianity that defines Caribbean. Yes? The Christianity that defines, that we have hold on to. Okay? It was first imposed, but before that, we had to remove any other ideological or religious thinking. So when you start, as you look at Caribbean thought and as you begin to trace, your identity and begin to try to understand the Caribbean, you have to also look at it by tracing your history. And you can't just trace it by just accepting it when you understand the fact that reality is not inherent. There's nothing inherent about society. There's nothing inherent. I was reading a book by Immanuel Kant. Do I still have it? And which I usually use, but I won't mention it yet because that's part of the study. How much more time do I have? It's about to be 7:42. How much more time do I have? I have 45 minutes. Good. Okay, good. I think I have 45 minutes left in the class at 48. Am I right, Carla? Good. Right. So, as I talk about tracing that thought, and I said to Delmarie said, Caribbean current, and I responded briefly saying capitalism, socialism, free market economies, colonialism, imperialism, even religion, the currents. You have to also think about what religion was brought to the Caribbean. Why is it that we are Christian and not Hindu or some other religion? And so on and so forth. So we said that, it was the Jews did not want Jesus because Jesus now is weak. And they are a prideful religion. They're prideful. But I ask, what do we have? The black man and the brown man in the Caribbean, the black and brown people in the New World. What do we have? We are told that nothing black is good. We're told that and the religion that you guys have is not good. That you guys it was this spiritist, animalistic. Ancestral religion is not good, and so on. Even some of them didn't even understand the whole ancestral spirit. A group of Caribbean theologians, according to as well as the Reverend Oliver Daly, and who would argue that people who didn't see Jesus. When you look at certain cultures and the worship of the sun or the moon and nature or ancestors, it's not that it was a religion of ancestors or a religion of moon. It's that people they don't understand these people. They were worshiping the moon. They were worshiping what is behind the moon. But but the people within the cultures, they were saying they don't understand. I was reading this book, Introduction to Missions, some years ago while doing missiology at Jamaica Theological Seminary, and I remember reading, and I can't recall the book, but the book talks, and a famous Caribbean philosopher, Oliver Daly, and Reverend Garnet Roper came together and were looking at what was behind. It isn't that they were worshiping the moon or the sun or the stars. They were worshiping what was behind the sun what was behind the moon, or what caused the moon to move, or the thing that is beyond the moon. They saw the moon as powerful, and they saw that whatever controls the moon, they just don't understand this. They're trying to understand this God. They're trying to understand the deity. They're trying to come to grips with a deity, and they just couldn't put it in. So they thought about. So based on their experiences and knowledge and so on, they came to identify the moon as a god, but not necessarily as a god. But humans use symbol to communicate. So the moon, the nature, the stars was symbolic of that which is God. Because the star is beyond nature. They saw the nature as powerful. So if nature is powerful, that must be God. But it's not that they never had any religion and they never had any God. They were trying to understand God and try to commune with God and to relate to God, and their understanding of things and their interacting of things have them come to the conclusion maybe God is within nature, because nature is everywhere and it's so powerful, and nature speaks to them. So then they start to connect with nature because they're trying to connect with God. People have this thing within them. People, and Paul Tillich talks about that. Paul Tillich talks about faith and this innate ability, people that human to want to connect with something that is beyond them, something that is powerful. So people, they thought to connect with that, and others connect with something else, and then over time, a set of people who connect with something becomes powerful, and then when they go to another nation, they impose not just their language and their tongue, but they impose their idea of God, because they're okay. So this is also who God is. So as you look, so you have to be suspicious of history. You have to be critical of it. You have to dissect it. That should not necessarily mean you become less of a person. That should not necessarily mean you become less of a Christian or less religious. It should actually mean you become even more religious, because now you seek to, because the Bible talks about that. When you find me, the Bible talks about seek me with all your heart, soul, and mind. Connect with God through your heart, soul, and mind. But we have to be careful about, as we seek to understand Caribbean thought, we have to put it within a particular perspective. Now, I want to then delve into the issue of, share screen again. Oh, I am sharing my screen. Yes, I am. Okay, good. Are you guys seeing my screen still? It goes, no, but that's fine. If you weren't seeing it. Now, let's go to a very important concept here. And you guys may have questions. I'm so sorry. Any questions so far about the concepts of thought, as we talked about Caribbean thought, and we talk about the importance of the ability to be able to trace thought, dissect it, so as to arrive at something credible. Now, any questions so far, guys?
Thank you for listening to the Neoliberal Round podcast. That was a lecture that I did online with some Jamaica Theological Seminary students at a course called Caribbean Thought. We will complete this series on Sunday or Monday. Thank you again for listening, and this is brought to you by the Neoliberal Corporation, serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges. And just so you know, that we are about making popular what was the monopoly, because that is the aim of communication, and we are in the business of providing information. Please support us at anchor.fm/theneoliberal/support. Walk good.